Let's zoom in there so maybe you can see it just a little bit better. I don't know why I went to a southern accent there. Anyways. Hi there, Michelle here, also known as Fancy Dinosaur Tea Party, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to make this vest. A little while ago, I did a whole video on, it was more like a vlog video about making a vest. It was this pink vest here. It was the very first vest, well, second vest. The first vest I did was this one here, but this one, you can tell, are very different styles of vests. So this was the first one that I had to like kind of figure out mathematically, and I learned a lot. I took what I learned from this one and I made this one. For this one here, I actually made it cropped. I also used a different crochet hook. There's a lot of different things that I did to make this one from that pink one. If you are coming from the pink vest video, this vest is just slightly different, just very slightly, in the sense that I think I made it a little bit shorter and I tightened it up just a little bit. This is what I will be showing you how to make today. I like to do the project and then film the intro, outro after it's all done, so then that way you can see what you're in for. Just in case that this vest is not why you came to the video, you now know that this is the vest that I will be making in the video. Also, pointing out in this video, I will be showing you the yarn I'm using, the crochet hook I'm using. I'm also going to be showing you the dimensions of this. You don't need to run to the comments and ask me what I'm using, what the thickness of yarn is, what crochet hook it is, what the measurements of this is, because it's in the video. And if you watch the video, your questions will be answered, hopefully. Also in the description, there will be chapters. So if you already know how to do something, but you're trying to figure out something else, you can just click on the chapter and go right to there. So without further ado, let's get right into making this vest. For this project, I'm going to be using Craft Smart Value yarn, and the color is clay. It is a 4 medium weight yarn, and it does require a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Now this yarn, compared to, let's say, the impeccable yarn that sometimes I use that is also from Michaels, also does say it is a medium 4 weight, but this yarn is actually just the slightest bit thicker than the loops and thread impeccable yarn. If you are using that one, this yarn is just a little bit thicker, so my measurements will be different if I were to have used a different yarn. A 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, also that would be a USI 9, and a pair of scissors. In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how I make the one that fits me. I will be giving you the measurements of the final product, so that way you know what you're going into. That way if you need to increase it or decrease it, you'll know the steps and you'll know how I came about the math. I think the best bet is to get a vest or sweater that fits you really nice, and then you can measure that and then use those measurements to make this. First, I am going to give you the measurements without ribbing, and then I'll show you the measurements with the ribbing because there is a little bit of a difference. Without a ribbing, these are the measurements that I used. Please feel free to screenshot this so you can have it if you decide to make this project. Everything is in inches, and the crochet stitch that I do use for this project is a half double crochet, which is, I believe, a UK half treble crochet. Also, for size reference, I do wear a size medium. And here are the measurements when the ribbing is on the vest. There is a few inches difference for all the different spots, so just keep that in mind when you are making this. For instance, the shoulders, you might think they're a little bit too small, but once you add the ribbing on, the shoulders will widen, and that same goes for the V. Again, please just keep this in mind when you do your ribbing. For me, I am going to be chaining 55 chains across. I'm going to have to start off with a slip knot. So to do a slip knot, I'm going to hold the tail end. Tail end's this guy here. And then I'm going to drape the working yarn. Working yarn is connected to the ball of yarn. I'm going to drape it over my hand. With my right hand, I'm gonna grab that yarn just like this, and I'm gonna make an X. Okay, so I'm just taking that yarn, making an X. I am grabbing the working yarn, so still holding onto the tail, and I'm just gonna pull that working yarn, and I'm just gonna pull it just like that. Stick my crochet hook in, and then pull tightly. I like to leave a little bit of a tail at the end because then that way I can weave it in. I now have to chain 55 chains. To chain, for people who might not know how to chain, I'm going to yarn over. Let's zoom in there so maybe you can see it just a little bit better. I don't know why I went to a southern accent there. Anyways, I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm gonna make sure that this hook is catching what I just yarned over, and then I'm gonna pull the loop that's already on my crochet hook through, just like that. So I'm gonna yarn over, the loop that's on here, pull through. Yarning over my yarn and pulling that loop through. And you just have to do 55 of those. Now that I have my chain, I will be doing half double crochets. I am a sucker for half doubles now. I don't know where that came from. I used to love doing everything in a single crochet. I switched over to half doubles and I'm like, I am not going back. Also, the reason why I like a half double is sometimes the single crochet is just a little bit too dense and it's too heavy, whereas a half double has a little bit more breathing room. And then the double, don't even get me started on the double. Now that you have your whole chain, you're going to yarn over and you're going to skip this little stitch right here and you're gonna go right into that one. You're gonna yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through all 3 of these loops. That's it. I'm gonna yarn over, I'm gonna go into the next stitch, which is right here, insert my hook, I'm gonna yarn over, I'm going to pull through, I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to pull through all 3. That's a half double. It's very simple. It's just one more step than a single. That's all I can say. Let's do this again. Yarning over, going through the next little stitch here. And again, I'm only going through that top loop right there. Yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through all 3. And now I'm gonna do this all the way down until I get to the end. And then when you get to your very last one, what you're gonna do is you're going to chain 1, and then flip your project over. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna yarn over. In this stitch right here, those 2 loops I'm gonna be going through. So I'm just gonna insert my hook, I'm gonna yarn over, I'm gonna pull through, I'm gonna yarn over, and I'm gonna pull through everything. Again, yarning over, and how I was just going through the 1 stitch here, I will be now continuing going through both these top loops. Insert into those 2 top loops right there. I'm gonna yarn over, I'm gonna pull through, I'm gonna yarn over, I'm gonna pull through 2. Yarning over, going through the 2 little loops right there. Yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through 3. So that's pretty much the half double crochet and how you're going to build your vest. So I'm gonna go all the way down to the end and then turn around and work my way back. Okay, and then I'm going through the last one. The last one is actually right here. It's kind of like on its side. So this is the last stitch here. Just go through both those loops, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. I'm at the end here, so I'm going to chain 1, flip over my project, yarn over, skip this chain here and go right into this stitch, yarn over, pull through 3. It's just going back and forth doing this until you get to the point where you want to start the arm and you want to start the V. Now I always start the arm and the V, so like where you put your arm through and where you want to start that V neckline at the same line. So just keep going back and forth until you get to that part where you want to start the V and the arm, and then that is when we start decreasing. I will show you what to do for that. Once you've gotten the midsection of your vest done and you are ready to start decreasing so you can have that, you know, like for your arm as well as the V, I like to start the arm and the V at the same space. Moving back, what I'm going to be doing for the next bunch of rows, I guess. Here, let me show you a little bit of an example. The back, I've already done the back. The back measurement is the exact same as the front, except I don't have to worry about that V, so that's what makes the back a little bit easier. And as you can see here, I've decreased to a certain point and then I stop decreasing, and then that way I can have this nice flat edge here. What's gonna happen is I'm only gonna be doing half because I'm gonna start that V. So when I start that V, I'm only gonna go to the middle point of that V, and then I'm gonna work my way back and forth and back and forth until this one section is done here. And then once that's done, then I move on to the other side. Now, yours might be a little bit bigger, yours might be a little bit smaller. So what I'm gonna do first before doing anything is I'm gonna count how many are here, and then I'm going to put a safety pin in the middle part, or you can use a stitch marker. I have one and I've lost that one. So I'm gonna use a safety pin. That way I know where to go, where to stop, and where to turn around. Now I'm actually gonna be decreasing from this side and this side to make the triangle shape. At the end, as always, I'm going to chain 1. I'm gonna yarn over, and I'm actually gonna skip this chain right here, and I'm gonna go into the next one because I am decreasing. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. And I am gonna go and keep doing my half doubles all the way until I get about 2 stitches away from here, and then I'll show you what I do. I recently learned this really handy trick on how to get a really nice crisp line, because sometimes when you are trying to do a diagonal line, it can get a little bit wonky, but I learned a really good trick. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna yarn over, and these are the last 2 stitches, and then this one here, I'm gonna add this stitch to that side, so it's fine. I'm gonna yarn over, just like I would for a normal half double crochet, insert my hook, I'm gonna yarn over, and I'm gonna pull through. Now, right here is where I would normally yarn over and pull through all 3 to like finish that. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I am gonna yarn over, but I'm gonna go into the next stitch, okay? And then I'm gonna yarn over, I'm gonna pull through. Now I'm going to yarn over and I'm gonna pull through all of these stitches. Just like that. I'm gonna flip my yarn over. I'm going to chain 1 like I normally would. And because I was decreasing for this row, since I'm starting a new row, I also have to do a decrease. And for this decrease is the very simple, you're just yarning over to do your next stitch, you're gonna skip this stitch right here, and you're gonna go into the next one. It's only when you come to the very end of a row that you need to do that little trick I taught you here of going into one stitch, then going into the other one, then pulling through everything, and then flipping over. When you start one, all you're doing is you're just skipping that first stitch. Yarn over, pull through all 3 just like a normal one, and then you're gonna work your way all the way back down. And then when you get here again, you're gonna stop yourself before you get to the last 2. So the 3rd stitch right here is where you're gonna stop, and then that's when I decrease with these 2 stitches here. I'm on that 3rd to the last stitch, doing my normal half double, and then this is where I have to decrease in the last 2. Let's zoom in just a tad so we maybe get a better picture of that. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, insert into that last stitch right here. So the last stitch is right here, so you can kind of see it. So it's kind of blended in, but it's this stitch right here. Just gonna go through both those loops. I'm gonna yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over, pull through everything, flip my work over, chain 1, yarn over, skip that very first stitch right here, go into the second one, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. That's essentially it. So this is the back piece, right? And this is the front piece. As you can see, it's lining up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep decreasing from this side and from this side, and I'm gonna keep decreasing until right about this row here, because this is the row where I stop decreasing, and so I'm gonna stop decreasing here as well. And then I'm just gonna go back and forth regularly just to get this really nice smooth line that's gonna go right there. I'm just gonna keep going back and forth, just decreasing until I get to about this stitch here. Then I'm gonna stop my decreasing and just do regular rows all the way up. So I got to the point where I am done decreasing. So what I'm gonna do is for the remainder of this height here, again, this is the back piece, I am just gonna go back and forth, no more decreasing or anything like that. I did my last decrease on this row here, and now I'm gonna start my next row. So I'm going to chain 1, yarn over, and I'm no longer skipping stitches, so I'm gonna go right into this one here and just do half double crochets. Okay, chain 1, flip over, yarn over, go into the very first stitch here. And then I'm just gonna keep going until I get the desired height that I want. Once this one's done here, I'm gonna do the exact same stuff on this side. Okay, let's see. Now that I got to the end, cutting my yarn, I'm going to yarn over and pull through and then pull tightly. This is how much yarn that I have left from my first ball of yarn. So I am gonna be switching up the yarn for the second half. So something that I learned from the first vest that I made is when you're starting the second V shape here, you wanna start from the center and work your way out. Even though, yes, it's very compelling to start off at the end and work your way this way, the problem that had arisen is when you're gonna do that, the way the stitches look on this side is not what they're gonna look on this side. And what I mean is, you see how this is a line? You see kind of like that line right here? We want that line to continue going this way. Because we started over here, our natural progression would be going this way, right? So you're still getting that straight line. Now, if you were to turn your work over and start here and go this way, they're not gonna line up. I really hope that this makes sense, because it makes sense in my head, but I feel like how I'm saying it might not make that much sense. All I'm saying is you wanna continue going in the same direction that you started in. So you started over here, you're gonna go here, and you're gonna continue this row of crocheting. To do this, all I'm gonna do is make another slip knot, insert my hook, pull through, then I'm gonna go right into this middle one here. I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to pull through and just make a slip stitch. Chain 2, 1, 2, and that's gonna act as my first half double. Then I'm gonna yarn over, and I'm gonna hide this tail end in my yarn. I'm gonna go into the next stitch, which is right here. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, yarning over, going into the next stitch, and all I'm doing is to hide the tail is I'm just draping it over my hook. Yarn over, pull through. You're gonna go all the way down to the end, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna do the exact same pattern that you did here. Is you're just gonna do a bunch of decreases to a certain point, and then you're just gonna do a straight up here, which is kind of like that, like for the shoulder here. If you figured this out, this side is exactly the same. You're gonna match it up, as well as you are gonna keep going in that same direction. You just have to tie in the new yarn. And that's essentially it. So once this side is done, I'm going to show you how I'm going to attach them both together. And then once they're together, we can start on the ribbing, and essentially that is it for the vest. Even though like the ribbing does take a while to do, but we will get to it. I have both my pieces done. I have the front and I also have the back. I showed you how to do the front, but the back is essentially the exact same as the front. Like, you want to make sure that this lines up with the front. So you want this height to be the same, you want this to be the same, you want the whole side to be the same. The only difference is that you just have to fill in this V part, essentially. So you just want to make sure that the front and the back are the same. The next step is I'm going to attach these two together. Now, how I'm going to attach it is I am going to attach it with the same hook and the same yarn. I'm not going to like stitch it in with like a yarn needle. I'm going to crochet it together. I'm actually just going to be crocheting up until where it starts tapering off, basically the length of my crochet hook. That's where I'm going to be connecting it. And then I'm also just going to be connecting it right here, and then of course along this side too. Because one, I mean, this is the arm, so you don't want to accidentally enclose that, otherwise you can't fit your arm through the armhole, because there will be no armhole. Here I am going to be doing ribbing. I'm going to be doing ribbing here, and then I'm also going to be doing ribbing at the bottom. I'm going to start off with the slip knot, outer layers facing each other, and then I want the inside, so this is going to be an inside layer, and then this is also going to be inside, so then that way I can stitch it up and then flip it inside out and you won't see where I connected it. Right at this bottom corner, insert my hook here, insert my hook here, then I'm going to yarn over and pull through everything. Inserting my hook here, then I'm going to go parallel into the back piece, yarn over, pull through everything. So I'm just doing a bunch of slip stitches. Now I feel like there's probably a better way to attach these things. This is how I attach them, and this is how it works well for me. I just try to like line up on one side, line it up on the other side, yarn over, pull through. That's pretty much it. Right here is where it's beginning to taper. When I get to here, grab my scissors, cut my yarn, yarn over, pull through, pull tightly, and then to hide the ends in, just gonna take my crochet hook, and I like to kind of like serpentine, you know, back and forth, loop over my yarn, and then pull through. And then just cut that tail. For the top here, I just want to make sure that it is lined up right in that corner, right there. Yarn over, pull through. And honestly, it is a lot easier when you're connecting, when you can see both these rows really nicely, because then you just have to go in 4 loops at once. So it's like you go through the 2 here, you go through the 2 there, just like that. And then just to make sure that it's not opening up like that, I like to just do a secure one at the very end, just so then that way I know it's not gonna open up. All right, cut my yarn, yarn over, pull through, pull tightly, hook through. This is if you don't have a yarn needle. If you wanna grab a yarn needle and do it that way, that's also good to do, but sometimes I just wanna like do it just like that. These here, I can just tie them up. This side's done, so I just have to do the same for up here, and I have to do the same here, and then this is what it looks like on the good side. So I'm gonna do the other side, and then after that's done, start working on the ribbing. The vest is now attached together, and I have it the good side out, you know, the way you would normally wear it, because now it's time to do the ribbing, and I personally like doing the ribbing with the good side facing me. For the ribbing, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start at one end, go around and come back and finish here. And then as well as I am going to be doing the ribbing for the sleeves, so I will be going, or the arms, I'll be going all the way around. Now ribbing is quite easy once you get the hang of it. To start off, what I'm gonna do is I like working right to left. So I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna work my way this way. I'm gonna stick with the same color. So this whole vest is gonna be one solid color. When you switch up colors, which I have done in the past, it's best to have the good side facing up. I'll quickly just show you. I have this sweater here, it's my Hellfire sweater. But as you can see, how it has these little like kind of puffs, whereas the inside, it looks like this. Unless this is the effect you're trying to achieve. That's why you do the ribbing on the good side, because then it does this. So I'm gonna start off with a slip knot. And I'm going to start right here in the center. Just gonna do a slip stitch. Just yarning over and pulling through these two loops. And then just pull tightly. I am now going to chain 5. So it's yarning over, pulling through. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna do 4, but I am gonna chain a 5th. Now I do wanna say that with ribbing, I find this a lot. It might seem like, oh my goodness, that's such like a long rib, you know? They do tend to shrink. If you want like this really big ribbing, you have to go over the top. It might look like it's really chunky right now, but it's not. It's gonna like shrink a little bit. Then I'm gonna work my way back down. So skipping this stitch right here, I'm going to be doing single crochets. Inserting my hook, yarning over, pulling through, yarning over, pulling through 2. Now we're just doing single crochets all the way back down. 3, that's 4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a slip stitch right here, right in that bottom stitch, like right underneath it, right here. Just inserting my hook, yarning over, and pulling through everything that's on my hook, okay? And then I'm gonna do one more slip stitch. Here's the thing, these aren't really clean. It's kind of hard to tell one from the other. I just use your best judgment is the best that I can describe it when doing this ribbing, because you do have to slip stitch 2 and then move yourself back. And yeah, I just guesstimate. So I'm like, that's one. This looks like that's the second one. Yarn over, slip stitch. You can kind of see, just use your best judgment to figure out where to put your crochet hook. Don't go too small and don't go like too wide. And now we're gonna work our way back up. And then what I'm gonna do is I like to count. Even though I've done this a ton of times, I still count 1, 2, 3, 4. In this 4th one here is where I'm gonna be putting my hook. And I'm going in the top stitch, or the stitch that is away from me. So if you can see here, like on a normal crochet, there's those 2 loops. You're not gonna be going through both those loops. You're just gonna be going through one of them. And it's always the one facing away from you. You go into that 4th stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we're doing single crochets into that one stitch that is away from us. Until we have 4. Then I'm going to chain 1, working my way back down. I've rotated my work. Looking at it, this is now the top loops, also the loops that are facing away from me. Because I chained that extra one at the top, I'm skipping the one that I just chained, going into this one here, and remember, just the top one, the one that's always facing away from you. All the way down until you get 4. And then I'm going to do 2 slip stitches. 1, 2. Move my work around, working back up, counting back down. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 in that 4th stitch. And single crochets going up and into the loop that is facing away from you. Chain 1, rotate your work, skip that chain that you had just made. I usually count from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, go into that 4th one there. Back down to the bottom, doing 2 slip stitches. What's 1? That's 2. rotating my work again, and working my way back up. That is it. You're just gonna keep up and down, up and down. Continuing this, you're gonna go up, all the way around this way, and we're gonna come right back down, and when we're at the bottom, I'll show you how I finish up. It's just one long piece of ribbing that goes all the way around. Okay, I am at right here. Now that I'm at the end, as you can see, it's now overlapping. Go into this stitch down here, yarn over, and just do a slip stitch. Okay, so that's nice and tight. And then what I want to quickly do is I want to make sure that this is nice and secure. I'm just going to do a few little slip stitches just in the front here. Let me one more right here. There. Yarn over, pull through. Where are you? There we go. And then just one more over here, just to tack it down, right? Yarn over, pull through. Gonna cut the working yarn. I'm gonna yarn over, pull through, pull tightly, and then I'm just going to push this little tail right in there. That is the front V done. Now, oh my goodness, I didn't realize how loud those bugs are today. Now that that is done, I can start working on the sleeves and the bottom. So the sleeves, I don't really feel like I need to show you how to do the sleeves because I'm doing it the exact same way I did this one. The way that I did the ribbing for the front, I'm only gonna do 4 high and I'm only gonna slip stitch 2 stitches and then build the next rib is what I'm gonna do for the sleeve. So the sleeve and the front V, exact same. I will show you how I finish the sleeve because that's just a little different than this because this is a V. So I will show you how I finish the sleeve, but for the bottom, I am gonna do it just slightly different. Instead of doing 4, I'm gonna actually do 8. Start with my slip stitch. I'm just gonna show you the first 2 just to show you why it's different. And again, I am working on the outer layer, so the good layer facing up. I'm gonna go right into this corner here. So this is exactly the same way that you would start the sleeve. Put my hook in. Now at the bottom here, it's gonna be a lot easier to see the stitches that you will have to like, you know, do your little slip stitches in compared to like the sleeve and the V-neck. I am now going to chain 8. So I'm just doing my slip stitch like I do for everything, just connecting my new yarn to the project. Chain 8, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And of course I chain 1 extra, just so you know you get the evenness, and then going back down. I'm gonna skip the 9th one that I did, go into the 8th and just do single crochets all the way down. This is the exact same method of ribbing that I did for the V, but now I'm adding more stitches on it because I want the bottom ribbing to be a lot bigger than the V and the arms. So this is another spot where I do change it up. So I'm actually going to slip stitch through 3. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. Turn my work around, work my way back up. I am just going through the stitches that are away from me. 8th one right there. And single crochets. Those are the only differences from the bottom to the top. I'm doubling the length, so instead of 4, I'm doing 8, and instead of just slip stitching 2, I am slip stitching 3. When you add that extra slip stitch, all it's doing, it's gonna like make it a little bit more cinched in, a little bit more tighter, and I want it just ever so slightly tighter on the bottom just so that way like it cinches in a little bit, but I don't want to go over dramatic. Again, the more tighter, the more cinched in you want, the more stitches down here you are going to slip stitch. But I like 3, I think 3 is good for this, so that's what I'm gonna continue to do. That's basically it. So now I'm gonna go all the way around for here, and then I'm gonna go back and do the arms. Now for the arm, I did the exact same steps that I did for the ribbing on the V part. Still 4 chains up, then I did 2 slip stitches before starting my next little row. So that is the exact same that I did for the arm, but I do want to show you how I close up the arm because for this, I didn't really do that. I just kind of like ended it and that was it. But for the arm part, I do need to connect it. And this connecting is also the same as how I connected the bottom part as well. So when I know that I'm on my last row and then I'm ready to close it up, I like to end off at the top. Usually when I get to the top, I do that extra chain, but I don't need to anymore because now I'm going to connect these together. To connect them together, I do like connecting them inside out. So this is the outside of the project, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna flip it. This is the inside, this is the inside, and the two outside pieces, so this side and this side, they're touching. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slip stitch all the way down. What I find is kind of helpful, what I'll do is I'll just take my hook out, I'll go across, so over here's where I want to attach it, and I'll put it right back in that loop I had, just doing slip stitches, so I'm yarning over and pulling through everything on that hook, just going all the way back down, which should, I mean, if you did 4 chains up, then it will be 4 chains down. And then what I do is I just kind of pull it apart at the bottom just to make sure it's all in, and when that's done, I'm going to cut my yarn, I'm gonna yarn over and I'm gonna pull through, and then I'm just gonna pull that end tightly. And then what I'm gonna do, just for extra security, I'm gonna take this piece of yarn here, this is where I had started it, and I'm gonna take this piece here where I ended it, and I am just going to double knot that. And then this is the inside, by the way. Make sure my hook is catching them, and then just pulling through all of these loops. And then I'll just cut those. And then what you can do is just go around and hide all the loose ends that are inside your project. And that should do it for the vest. All right, so you saw how I made the vest. Not much to it. You saw the steps. Hopefully I wasn't confusing at any part. Hopefully everything makes sense to you. I try to make it as simplified as possible. Nothing else I can really say about this vest other than it was pretty easy to do. That will do it for this video. If you're new to my channel, like sewing, crafting, thrifting, and crocheting, why not hit the subscribe button? You can also follow me on my Instagram and my TikTok, which is the same. Fancy Dinosaur Tea Party. I think that is it, so y'all have a good day now.